options here. Yeah, that looks good. All right, they made me readjust this. I had set for vertical. They said they want horizontal. Or is it the other way around? Either way, I'm here. Welcome, guys, to the Wednesday Night Hump. Thank you so much for taking your time to show up as usual. I want to thank you first and foremost for taking your time, which is a valuable thing, and spending a little bit of it here with me. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, as I wait for more people to show up here to live stream to tune in, I shall ramble on about things that have occurred here upstairs to the right music. It would appear that my shipment from Japan for this month is here. So that's a good thing. Mr. Watson in the house. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So that's a good thing. So that should be coming up. We'll be doing an unboxing of that coming up, plus a few other things. I was talking, Mr. Allmark in the house. How you doing, Ben? Welcome. I was talking last time about shortages in the guitar market, and I was pointing out that I was buying, things that I thought would be useful to have. And one thing that I don't have that I always kind of wanted was a digital caliper so I could measure nut widths. I think that I have so many of these vintage Japanese guitars coming through that it would be really great, valuable information. It behooves me to measure, some of the neck sizes on these things, as well as some other things. So I ordered one. So that's all. I'm kind of waiting. I want to review a few guitars coming up here, but I'd like to, with that new addition to when I do review a guitar, start adding that in. I am waiting for that caliber to come so I can do that. So that's coming up. So I've been kind of holding off a little bit on filming anything significant, but I have sure enough stuff to do. I'm just waiting for the tools to do it the way I want to. So that's a cool thing. I am actually was inspired by hey, Uncle Carl. How you doing, sir? I'm glad you made it. Uncle Carl, I'm sorry I haven't made it to you yet. I'm actually going to give you a call tomorrow. But anyway, just so you know, you look out for me tomorrow for sure. That'll be the day for me to give you a call. But welcome to the live stream. Welcome. Yeah, I think that for my reviews of some of these vintage guitars rolling through, just get that information out. Just like all the other things, you can get the old catalogs from the 70s and you can look at some of the things that they say in those catalogs. But things are always different when the rubber hits the road. There are certain Japanese Grecos that have characteristics that the catalog says that they don't, but they do. Man, two hats in the house. How you doing? Yeah, I watched the weather, Uncle Carlton. We our last conversation we were talking about that hurricane uh, going through, and I saw that things were where you were at were okay. So I know you were all good, but another one coming through. This Milton. So I was going to give you a call and see how that was going to affect your area. But that's down in Florida. You're up in Atlanta, but you're still some stuff coming through. Mr. Rogers in the house. How you doing? Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a nice addition to my videos when I do review these things. Just a little change of format. I thought it would be good to do. Let's see where we're at here. Um, yeah, we got Matty Two Hats, my Uncle Carlton, Mr. Rogers in the house, Allmark, as always, Mr. Watson as well. Thank you guys for showing up, and everybody else is going to tune in. Let's get into this tonight. 5 ways you're getting squeezed as a musician in 2024. Carlton says, as far as that last hurricane, it tore up all of Midtown. I live on the south side, my parking lot didn't even get wet. Yeah, we were worried about, the van. I'm glad I'm glad the van made it. You didn't see it floating away. Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. 5 ways you're getting squeezed as a musician in 2024. And we have some Hall of Famer musicians here in the house tonight, guys. So I'm talking to a wide range of musicians here tonight. But we're all getting squeezed in a lot of different ways. And there are a lot of videos out on YouTube, certainly in our circle. Hot topic tonight, Mike. Yeah, Maddie, we'll see. We'll see if I do it some justice. The van is a good few leaves got blown on, and that's it. Well, the leaves aren't going to hurt the van I'm growing. We were worried about a tree falling on it. The leaves, that's okay. The tree, that's a bigger problem. But yeah, as Maddie said, a hot topic tonight. You know, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that are going through the process to explain how one segment of our industry, the recording industry itself, has it, and how it was a self implosion. They did it themselves. Uh, Rick Beato has been touching on that subject. Um, and the conversation, the conversationalists that he brings to the subject are fascinating. There are other guys, producers, who are on YouTube. They are primarily in the rap genre. And they too are talking about their woes and how things are affecting their industry. I've touched upon with you guys, myself personally, that I did the wide, and I didn't even know it. You know, in the 90s, everybody was trying to get a job working in one of the big studios. It needed a good wash anyway. Yeah, I hear you. I got one. Um, Everybody, my peers were trying to get it. Well, not all my peers, but most of them were trying to get a job in the studio. I included, working for Babyface at his studio, working at several studios throughout LA, and around surrounding areas. That was certainly something that I wanted to do, to try to get into being an you know, the lead engineer on a project as opposed to a second. But the way the industry went, those guys who were in that position, the lead engineers, are found themselves not only out of a job, but the studios they're recording in are gone. I decided to go in the direction of doing production, and I got lucky enough to get into writing music for TV commercials through people that I knew. Always what you know, mostly it's who you know. But even that as a venue to go into creatively and monetarily sufficient enough to survive off has dropped off. And that is due to AI. So there's a lot of things and a lot of reasons out there why in 2024 you're getting squeezed as a musician. And I thought tonight, as a topic, that I would get about it. You know, if you're a musician, whether it's your full-time gig or just a side passion, you probably notice things aren't what they used to be. So when I sat down to write this script this afternoon, you know, like I said, I thought about all the different inputs that I've had from YouTube videos of different people talking about different reasons that their particular segment of the music industry is getting squeezed. And I decided to put some of them together to give you five of them that I would mention. Now, from rising costs to for opportunities, it's becoming a real rough ride. Today, we're breaking down five ways you're getting squeezed in 2024 as a musician. So if you feel like you're fighting an uphill battle, trust me, you are not alone. So I thought I would get away from talking about guitars and gears and things like that because, again, you know, I sound, you know, the reason this is not a digression, this is actually kind of related. But the reason why I like that Greco Les Paul Custom that I got, that black Custom, is because I can I've been sitting down with it and I've come up with quite a few ideas. It's a good sketchbook. And a guitar is, you know, its form and function in the life of a musician is to help the creative process. However, if all other venues to express that creative process are shut off, what do you do? Or are you just, well, let's explore that. So today we're breaking down some of these things. I want to hear your comments, by the way, guys. If you have your own horror stories, I want to hear them. Let's build a community where we all know what's going on with each other, and what we're going through. So first up, I wrote about the death of live venues. I've hit on this quite a few times. This one obviously is one that hit me personally because one of the ways I got out of the studio system and was able to get into production was actually by playing. You know, I was a studio musician mostly up until I got over to my first few tours of Japan, playing as a keyboardist, and then later on guitar. And then building my own band, Asanoki, which, by the way, if you guys don't know, you can go over to bandcamp.com, type in Asanoki, and take a look at those albums. But I found the live venue to be the place where I really was able to try out some ideas, where I was able to expand on some things that I had recorded and put out. It was an audience determine what was happening, what wasn't. It was a great place, and to build an audience as well. The days that you could play at your local dive bar and catch a random Wednesday gig at a live house in your city. Remember those days? Yeah, those days are pretty much all over. In 2024, live venues are closing down faster than ever. And it's not just due to the pandemic aftermath. Rising rents, complaints, and shrinking audience are making it impossible for small venues to survive. For example, the Roxy Theater, which I know very well in Los Angeles, so super iconic theater in LA, is talking about shutting down because of the cost just to operate, and noise complaints and things of that nature. Things that we would have never thought about even 15 years ago. Let's be generous. And so many other, wherever you're at, I'm sure. Now here I live 10-minute walk from Paradiso, one of the most famous live houses. If I do go back, I always said that I want to play the Paradiso. I'm 10 minutes away from it. Just got to throw a band together. I got the material. But that place is still rocking, and that's fortunate because some cities have still have a desire for live music. Maybe more so here in Europe than in the United States and in Great Britain, but certainly over here there is that. However, the cost in order to put on a show, which I'll talk about in a moment, also is quite prohibitive. Now, the number of small to medium venues just in the last decade, just so I give you guys some numbers to work with so you can see how bad it is, has dropped by 50%. In the last decade, we've lost half of the live venues that we had. Half. Now, you become a band that sharpens itself in front of a audience, that sharpens its performance skills, its playing skills, its live skills. These are things that used to get you signed to a record contract. We'll put a pin in that thought, but let's just say that that was one of the venues, one of the roadways past the barriers to get into that industry. Half of them are gone. And again, Rick Beato was pointing out that there are no bands in the top 10, hasn't been for a long time. So there's that. Fewer live venues mean fewer chances for emerging musicians to build an audience. Your bedroom can only take you so far. You know? You can only be a garage player for so far. And I've been that. I started out as a garage player. Without live gigs, you're missing out on crucial networking and real world feedback experience that you need. And two hats. I can give you an Aussie perspective, and live music venues are closing more and more each year here. Yeah, yeah. Again, uh, that 50% number is across the board. So if you had two live clubs in your town, yeah, you got one now. You might not have any next year, or in the next 10 years, if this keeps. Actually, at this progression rate, it would be the next 5 years. So there's that, guys. Just consider that. The live venue plays. Rap music got its start. In that live venues. So that's not just for bands. It's for rappers and other kinds of music. So what do we do? Well, getting creative with house shows, live stream concerts, and even playing in unconventional spaces like pop-up art galleries. I saw a live we have a street here that has nothing but art galleries, and I actually saw a little band that was playing there. Interesting. But we all know that that is not a sustainable substitute. The neighbors put up with it for that night, probably because they got invited to the party. But they ain't putting up with that every weekend. It's going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Phone 666. Hey there, and new here. Hey man, welcome phone. You are so welcome, sir. Welcome to the live stream we do every Wednesday and Sunday night here. 11 p.m. Central European time. I'm beaming out of Amsterdam here tonight. Welcome to each and every, a very, 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 very warm welcome to each and every one of you joining in for the first time tonight. Matty Two Hats. Not only that, but it's so expensive to go and see a live music show. Most people don't bother. We're going to touch upon that. Phone 666. I love playing instruments. I think that GarageBand is okay to produce music. A production question. Yes, I think that GarageBand is quite sufficient. There are quite a few hit albums that have been produced by GarageBand, so I know that it is good enough. Yeah, sure. So there is really the next thing. Touring costs are skyrocketing. Next up is this subject, and even major acts are starting to feel the pinch. For the ticket costs are making it so that people are not showing up. So you look at the number of people who bought tickets and say to themselves, okay, we didn't quite fill at that venue, we're going to cancel that show. They take a financial hit off of that because that's one little piece of the pie that they're not going to be getting. You know, just look what happened like bands like the 1975 and even some legacy acts like Elton John who've mentioned that the logistics just don't add up anymore. The logistics just don't add up anymore. See, I had this rabbit hole theory in the back of my mind that they've been building Live Nation and and the modern usual suspects, agents of the man, as it were, have been building all these big coliseums with I assume, with the view forward to packing them full of people for concerts of people of the ilk of Beyonce and Taylor Swift that they create. And that would be your bread and circuses. All the small venues that would create bands that could possibly fall out of their control, they've been shutting those down so that they control the monopoly of what's allowable in their venues. But with this, I think they went too far because the prices and the greed and the cost to build these venues and to build up these industries are reflecting in the taxes and fees on the ticket prices. And the question of if we build it, they shall come. No, if we build it, they may not be able to afford to come, or they may not want to come. So just a thought there I thought I would throw out there since we're on the subject. Maddie, two hats. It can be phone 666 says thanks. Hey, you're welcome, sir. Always welcome to answer any question. Maddie, two hats. It can be $100 now just to see a local band, and 2 to 500 for international. Sir. Anthony Thornhill in the house. Welcome, sir. How you doing? Maddie, two hats. I used to pay $5 for a 4 band lineup. Yeah, Ben Allmark. They need a good sheep acts like Taylor. Yes, but again, how many people are operating at her level? It's not enough to keep that thing going all year round. Man. So even their idea, their grand idea and their grand plan may not be working. And a lot of their artists, by the way, are getting, 86 off these labels as well. They just, there was a huge sweep. We'll touch on that in a minute. Fuel prices, lodging costs, and equipment transport fees have gone up. I saw a sad story out of Seattle the other day. This band, three-piece band, I don't know if you guys saw this one. If not, check it out. On the Seattle News, that yes, I know I live in Amsterdam, but I keep the eye of siren on everywhere. Everywhere. And you should too. It's a three-piece touring band, and they got their stuff stolen from the front of in front of their hotel. $100,000 worth of equipment, and their tour is over. They were bearing it as it was. Going out on tour on your own with a trailer, which they don't fault them. They had it locked down pretty good, but they ran into some real pros who saw them, knew it, they went to their gig, followed them, and knew it, and defeated them, defeated their security. The only other way they could have saved that thing, even defeated the tracker that was on it, by the way. They had put a tracker on things. They defeated those. So yeah, man, even in that regard, it's just getting dangerous and minus to go out on tour. Minus to go tour. Yeah, it was 100K of equipment. And also that was also the digital what I used to use MP3s, or I don't know what they call it now, clips or live stream, or for their live show that they use, the graphics, all that stuff, all the projection stuff, the cues, all that stuff, gone. Touring used to be a way to promote your album, make some cash, and connect with your fan. Now it's becoming a financial burden. For smaller acts, the risk is even higher. Do you have a few grand lying around to lose if a gig gets canceled, or the van breaks down, or even worse, a few $100,000 laying around if the van gets stolen, like it just did recently? In order to do that kind of tour, the security that you would need, you'd have to hire a guy just for security. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Many are turning to regional tours, focusing on just one or two cities and building a micro audience. But is that enough? Really? You tell me. Yeah. You have a core audience. Like I've said, if you're pushing out your own product, if you control your own masters, if you're not signed to any recording contract, it is better to sell 10,000 copies of what you got than to sell 1,000,000 copies with a record label. And that is the cold facts of it, financial facts of it too. You will make out like a bandit in the end, more than if you had a recording contract. But you have to build that small fan base. That's your fan base. They'll stick through you through thick and thin, but that's what you're going to eat off of. Now, the rising cost of gear. I fooled you. I wasn't going to talk about gear tonight. I lied. I have to talk about it. I've got to mention gear. Got to mention it. Because, we've talked about all the factors that are driving up the cost of gear. And really, with food and housing getting hit by inflation, certainly gear should be a no-brainer that that's jumped as well. But here's the kicker. This just isn't about inflation. A lot of companies are taking advantage of supply chain issues to jack up prices even further. I'll give you a complete, again, I use the metaphor that YouTube is a high school dining hall and everybody's at their own tables. You got the cosplay geeks over here, and you've got us, the guitar guys, on the table. But I'm going to go over to the rice table in Japan to give you an example of what I mean. There, in the major cities, there have been reported shortages of rice. If you know anything about the Japanese and rice, you know that that is an important staple to their life. I'm not Japanese. I lived there for 18 years, guys. I'm not kidding you. I have rice, Japanese rice, by the way, that I buy, not at a small price, every day, every day. It's gotten that ingrained into even in me. But in Japan, they in the big cities were coming up with empty store shelves. I know people out in the countryside or outside of in some of the other cities, and they're like, we got more rice than we know what to do with. It was basically, and in the news was all jacking up the issue by talking about rice shortages and things like that. And if you step back and looked at it, you would see that actually there was something somewhere, somebody was creating an artificial shortage in order to drive up prices. Because when the rice did hit the shelves again, finally they got restocked. Guess what? They were 20% more than they were before, and they are not going down. So I saw that. I've been observing that. It's quite obvious if you know that, if you understand that situation, and if you know people there and you talk, that that's what happened. And so a lot of companies are taking advantage of supply chain issues to jack up prices even further in the instrument market. Same way. Works the same way. A Fender American Standard Strat was $1,300 a few years ago. Now it's pushing $1,700 or more. It's a big jump. I can consciously, because it's funny. I in the guitar market, obviously, I don't buy new ones. I have a cutoff date of 2001. I'll make it an exception every now and then, 2005, 2007, but that's really as far as I'll go. In the case of that Fender Telecaster I just got, 2007. But I do keep an eye on current prices, and in my mind, an American Fender Strat was $1,300. But when I was looking at something else and I came across the prices and saw 17 or more, I was blown away. I was like, wait a minute, what happened? Those things used to be. So it's not just the big brands, sorry. Boutique pedal builders and amp manufacturers are actually having to charge more just to stay afloat. See, it works the other way around too, because if you're not selling like you were, like hotcakes anymore, then you have to increase your prices in order to stay afloat. And that'll kill your customer base. It's a death spiral. So we're going to see a lot of boutique pedal builders and amp builders go out of business. We already are. I saw a YouTube video, guy said I was an amp builder and I had to go out of business. And so this makes it, even harder for newcomers. The entry level barrier is so high now that many people are turning to software and plugins instead. Strings, cables, by the way, other bits of recording equipment, all gone up. So it's, I grew up in a hardware environment. I was the generation that transitioned from hardware to software. I was doing remixes Jock and I were doing remixes for Motown, as I pointed out before, very, very early version of Pro Tools. Um, and yet, um, even with the software, which we're going to move into next, you're going to find that they're putting in a squeeze. I prefer hardware. I always prefer hardware. I've said it before 1,000 times. I've got two 1 by 12 amps. Those are the amps I will use to do recording with. I mic them up the old-fashioned way, and they do just fine. You can hear the evidence that on my albums that style of recording is just fine if you can do it. You know, if you can pull it up, if you have space, and you don't start getting knocks from your neighbor, you can pull that off. But most people can't, so they start using software. So you get funneled. I always talk about these funnels, how you get funneled due to situations. You're not making a lot of money, so you're living in a small place, so you can't afford to have the kind of area that you would need in order to really crank the amps up. A lot of aspects go into that. But funneled down from hardware into software, I wasn't funneled, but if I wanted to stay in, I kind of was. That was the way to go. You had to go that way. And when I was recording from the time that I started, I went through several formats, to a tape, to ADAT, to a lot of different formats. Eventually, you know, you had to stay up. Could you afford to do that? Could you afford to do that these days? Just asking. Remember when you could buy a piece of software and own it forever? Yeah, those days are gone too. I told you how I got burned by my software company that I was buying replications of the hardware devices that I used to use in the studio. And most of that stuff, when they went over to a subscription, um, despite giving me a contract that said that my purchase was forever, eternally beyond the end of the universe, they completely screwed me. Companies like Adobe, and even some plug-in makers are subscription-only models. You can't just pay once and be done. Now you have to pay monthly or annually to keep using the software you already know inside out. Pro Tools switched to a subscription model, and a lot of DAWs are following suit. You think it's just a $20 a month thing, but add that up over 20 years and you are paying thousands. You know, over a 5 to 10 year period, you might as well just bought the hard version of that stuff, slowly, a piece at a time, and then you know, right? It's a massive hit for independent musicians and producers who don't have a label or a big budget behind them. You're chained to these fees just to stay relevant and comparable with the new updates. You know, that funnel that I always talk about. If you feel like, and by the way, I see 12 people watching, and I see 1, 2 upticks there on the like side. Hit those likes, guys. Gotta hit those likes. I would appreciate it so much. If you took the time to hit the like button for me, it means a lot to YouTube algorithm. It means a lot to me too. Thank you if you take the time to do that. Whether you're watching this live now or in the rerun, please don't forget to hit the like button. B. Lee at Lee B says, you hide in Diddy's closet. Now, I'm afraid Diddy done come out that closet. There ain't no hiding no more. It's quite obvious. Phineas Inshaw, how you doing, sir? Welcome, welcome. Matty Tats. Yep, waves burnt me too. Yeah, waves. I don't want. I don't. It's that evil that shall not be spoken of, but waves. Yes. You know. You know. It's like I told you why I'm super suspicious of these pedals and these things like the axe effect and all that. I'm just because they all require a software update, and I just always say, what happens someday if the lights go out? I'm just saying, the lights go out and there's no more updates. You have a really expensive paperweight. That's the industry standard. So you get yourself an industry standard paperweight. Hooray! Huzzah! You know, I just trust them. You know, this is like the world's teeny tiniest amp. You know, it's a two by two. You can see them there. Yet in all, it's not hard based. It's it's USB powered, and it works. I trust that. It doesn't sound great. It sounds good, clean, but doesn't sound great. But I trust that as a device that will be working 10 years now more than most of these software patches. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. To kind of point that out to you guys. Dennis Henshaw, it happened to the old Mustang and Fuse software. Yeah, yeah, we've talked about that before. Hassani, this just came across my timelines, and man, aren't you spot on about the software subscriptions? Yes, sir. And welcome, by the way. Phineas Henshaw, makes it hard for me to buy firmware-based solutions. Not just you. Yeah, again, I'm super suspicious, guys. Again, it's like we all need that inner Admiral Akbar on our shoulders saying, it's a trap. It's a trap. I'm getting there. I'm working on it. It seems that way to me. And there are cats out there, and if software was the bee's knees and the end all to be all, why is the price of the hardware versions of this stuff from back in the day, this old, hey, that's old hardware. Who wants that's old junk? The price of that stuff is skyrocketing. Somebody's buying it. Somebody's a little hip saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to swoop this stuff up. I'm just saying, there's a lot of things, guys, to consider. But that is a way you're getting squeezed. It's the barrier to get into. Again, I was talking about one of the barriers was having a band that could perform to a certain level that would attract an A&R guy. Once you got in, you were in that system, and I used to work at a 16-track studio called Right Track Studio in Santa Monica when I was in my teenage. That's my first recording studio, 16 tracks. It's $20 an hour, which was a lot of money in 1983. 83? Yeah, 83 or so. 83, 84. And however, that was a solution that I had that I could go to. That was a place, and also where I learned how to operate that kind of equipment as well. I didn't just go in there and record. I kind of sat back and said, hey, how does that work? What does that do? And I'd been in there enough times. And so I'm of that generation. I just mentioned that because, not as a digression, but just to say that I think my roots in that is that I came from a hardware-based solution kind of mind frame. And if you too are old enough to come from that, or young enough to recognize that that is a great direction to go, then, you're ahead of the curve, I think, in a lot of ways. Hassan says, it's easier to control software centrally than hardware. I am a musician, but generally, yeah, again, like I said, if you got yourself, I guess they come up to your house and cut the power. But short of that, and then you can have your own generator, so even they can't even defeat that. So short of that, put yourself in a position where people are controlling your destiny in that regard. And with you're in the middle of a very important session, this has happened, and things crash or software updates occur, and you're screwed. So, again, another way you're getting kind of squeezed. One of the solutions I think is it's kind of old school, but a lot of folks are sticking to older versions or looking for open source software alternatives. But if you need that cutting edge sound, you're pretty much well stuck. Pretty much well stuck. I use an older version of my Studio One. And I wait several updates before I do an update on it, if I do an update at all. I haven't updated it recently because I've been recording. I'm going to get back to recording because I'm going to release another album. Guys, I'm going to do a compilation of some of the rock songs from my previous four albums, four albums, and I'm writing new material as well that I'm going to include. So I'm going to start recording it. So there will be an update to my Studio One, but the way that I'm recording this album, looking forward, the way that that's worked so far for me, I'm not going to change that, and I have everything that I need. So I'm not gonna put another dime into it in terms of, I've got to get the latest version of this because it has this that does this. I don't give a crap about the latest version of Studio One. I don't. The one that I have does what I needed to do. There was no firmware updates to the 24 track studios, that real 2-inch tape machines that I used to work in the studios. They didn't come every month and say, hey, we got to take this big machine out because we got 2.1 in we're going to put in. That was 2. This is 2.1. No, that didn't happen. So, just saying. A little old school, but maybe just stick with what you got. Last but absolutely not least, is the devaluation of music production. Look, for all the reasons I mentioned before, we are in the golden age of do-it-yourself music production. I was training myself to do it regardless of what format. If I was in a 2-inch tape, if I was in a room with 24 track board and a 2-inch tape machine, that would be how I would be working, and I would still be working primarily with myself. And I bring in certain musicians for certain things, but primarily I would do most of the work myself. But now everybody can do that at home, including myself. You can make a chart-topping hit from your own bedroom, like Billie Eilish. But this democratization has a dark side. It has absolutely devalued the very thing we're passionate about. You see, SoundCloud, YouTube, TikTok, flooded. There's so much content that good music is just a drop in the ocean. No one wants to pay for something they can get a million different versions of the same thing for free. And again, reaching back into, time, when I was a kid, if I heard or had a band or somebody that I liked, for Prince, we'll use him for example, if I knew that Prince had a new album that was coming out called 1999, Prince got a new album coming out in 1999, yeah, go get it. Well, I'd have to go down to, which at that time was the Fox Hills Mall, and I would have to go to Goodies. Was it Goodies? Maybe it was Good Sam Goodies. And I'd have to go and buy the physical albums, go to the counter for it, get in my bike or my car or have my mom's car, whoever dropped me off down there, get home, unwrap it. I could read the album notes. I could look at the artwork. While I was playing the record, I could read the lyrics. It had the lyric sheet on the inside to hear what was being said. It was an experience. that I invested in. A lot different than picking up your phone, going to Apple Music and pushing, play me something. You're not really putting anything into that. Tower music was another one. Yeah. Um, There's a decline in music sales revenue versus an increase in self-produced music releases. Decline in music revenue is actually the obverse of the increase of self music that's available out there. It's oversaturated. Everybody's a producer now. Do you know how many years and how much shit that I took, excuse my French, and late nights and doing stuff like getting food, getting in my car with my gas on my dime to go pick up food for the artists that were in the studio, um, you know, cleaning up behind folks as a second engineer, getting burned on money to this day. LaFace owes me money, to be frank. I didn't, you know, and learn the equipment and play with bands and travel the world to the point where I could and get paid for my work before I could sit here before you and call myself producer. But everybody now is a producer. Everybody's a producer. And as a result, it's undervalued. The skill and the investment it takes to make something truly polished, well, maybe those skills aren't so much out there, and when they are, they're overshadowed by that amounts of mediocrity. And God help you if you're mediocre, like this Ice Spice, for example, and somebody pushes a button on you and decides to promote you, and you actually have to not be mediocre. And it doesn't work. The insult of that is no bueno. We see that, right? It's all in. Studios are closing, producers are undercutting each other, talented artists are struggling to get noticed as a result of this. Why? There used to be barriers. And unfortunately, one of the results of those barriers we're seeing with the whole P. Diddy here was mentioned here earlier before as a joke. But the gatekeepers would, sometimes make you literally bend over to get in, so to speak. And on you, if you went with that. What does it benefit a man to gain the whole world but to lose his soul? Someone said once. So, what's the solution? Focus on building a strong brand and finding your niche. Upstairs to the right music is what I have. Got me, Mike McWare, that's me. Producer, musician, raconteur, traveler. And the music, unfortunately, sometimes is a secondary thing. It's no longer just about the music. It's about the story, and making a connection with your audience. See, and you can do that now through YouTube, obviously. And you can build an audience like this one that I have. Such a wonderful audience. I have such a beautiful community here. Of wonderful people who are always here. And I know if I drop a project, they will support me by buying it. Whether they like it or not, they'll support me, and vice versa. I like to hope. And if some of you guys have a project out there, I went to, again, this is a community where that's what we do. And that's what you have to do these days. It's unfortunate. of course, I use Prince as an example, but I was interested in Prince musically. His shenanigans and the things that he was doing, sure, that was interesting for the newspapers. The real meat in the bones there was what he was doing on record. Now that's no longer, a thing enough to get you over. When Warner Brothers heard his demo tapes, they thought it was a band. They said it's a great band. Let's sign him. Well, sit down. I'm gonna tell you, it's not a band. It's one guy playing everything and singing everything and wrote the lyrics. You know, that's what mattered. Not, hey, this guy's got 100,000 followers on TikTok uh, and those followers are the most specious. It's the most hollow thing there is out there. You can buy likes, you can buy fans. They're called fair weather friends. You know what that means? Look it up. But unfortunately, it's not about the music. It's about the story these days, and that's just sad. That's just sad. That's so sad in so many ways I can't even number them. Man in two hats. Yeah, Mike, I went through the intern system also and had to pay my dues. Yeah. I got screwed financially, but not physically, thankfully. High five on that one. Can I get an amen? Don't think they didn't try. Okay? Don't think that them situations didn't come up. But I was like Snagglepuss. I was exit stage right. I was out of there, buddy. I was not the one to be staying after. You know? So, but, however, and you see where that leads. You know, it's hollow. It's meaningless. It's empty. Without form and void. Tohu obohu. Without form and void in the Hebrew. Also, just to wrap this up, reminder, we talked about the live venues, the rising cost of touring gear, subscription traps, and the devaluation of music production. It's a tough scene out there. But knowing what we're up against is the first step. Knowing what you're up against. This is a community. We're all in this together. So keep creating, keep pushing, and stay true to whatever it is that drives you. People like to use the word passion. I hate the word because it's another word that that's become meaningless. But drive is a more accurate word. I think when people say passion, I think that they mean to say the things that drive you. They think those are two the same thing. They're not. I can lose passion for someone. Have you ever been passionate over somebody or something? And that passion fades away. But drive, true drive, and ambition, those are things that are not fair weather friends to you. They're pretty hard stuck in your DNA, if you have it. So whatever drives you, keep creating, keep pushing, keep doing it, because you have to. Again, I sat down with that Les Paul Custom and I knocked out 3 tunes. I have all the arrangements. I haven't written all the lyrics yet, but I have the lyrics and the arrangements in my head. And when I say I have the arrangements in my head, I mean I have the entire arrangement in my head, all the orchestrations, what everything's going to play, where the breaks are, all that kind of stuff. I can't shake the ability to do that easily. Am I going to get paid for it? I'll get whatever support that I get from my community that I build. But it's doing me no good floating around between my earlobes, is it? Got to put it out there. So I won't ever give that up. But again, I have a strong realization of what this market is that we live in 2024. I had good productive mentors, Phineas Henshaw says. Yeah, yeah, I did too. I did too. I really did. Jock and I, we were lucky. You know, Tyrese Gibson, he was lucky. We all, all the cats who came out of there, all of us, you know, came out of Reggie Andrews because he covered us more so than I realized, and the things that he would say sometimes too. And I realize now that they were like little hints about stuff. Yeah, man, you stay away from those after parties. What got me about the after parties some of the that I saw was just the way that those folks acted. Again, I saw, what was her name? Was it Mickey Howard? Yeah, Mickey Howard. I keep forgetting her name for some reason tonight. I can remember. There was an R&B Mickey Howard back in the day, and she had a song out that I love. She had done a new cover of a song called Imagination. Imagination, it's funny, turn your day sunny. That one. Just like I think about haunting you, something like that. But I always liked that song. And I saw her backstage at one of those parties running around just on something, screaming about where's my baby, and it was just too much for me. I was like, wow. So, but again, there was gatekeepers. And it was one of the reasons why there was money. We thought to democratize music, let's break down those gates. Well, you break down those gates, you break down the system. And if you don't have something in place to take that system that's advantageous to you as an artist, and it's not Spotify, this is where you're at. This is where you wind up. Just saying. That we long for those parties. I wish the money was around still. So watch that woman act an ass, in front of a lot of top musicians and people. Like I could go through a list of the people who were there. I was like, damn. But and they were all acting like it was normal. So that told me a whole lot too. Everybody wasn't like, oh man, why is B tripping? Now it wasn't like, everybody was like, well. All right, guys, I think I beat that one to death enough. I think that we have gone through that sufficiently. I think that we have covered all the bases. There are at least 5 reasons why I think things are completely squeezing you as a musician in 2024. So coming up, waiting for some stuff to come in so that I can do some stuff, but there will be videos. As always, there will always be videos coming up. Sunday will be here. Yeah, guys, always a pleasure. Always happy to see each and every one of you. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch, whether you're watching it now or in the rerun. It is greatly appreciated, again, that you took the time to do so. I hope you find this informative. I hope there's some points that hit home with you and brought a new perspective of this subject so that you can kind of navigate the water, so to speak, a little bit more smoothly, if possible. Good night to each and every one of you guys. I will see you again on Sunday. You take care. Bye-bye.